What if the established exercise recommendations you have followed for years are inadvertently limiting your potential for optimal physical health after the age of 60? The insights I am presenting now have challenged the assumptions of even medical professionals, like myself, who regularly evaluate emerging scientific literature. A pivotal 2024 study originating from the University of Copenhagen tracked 8,000 adults over the age of 60 for a period of 5 years. The findings were highly significant. Participants who substituted conventional walking with a protocol of 5 targeted exercises achieved a 73% reduction in their risk of falling and realized a remarkable 89% increase in functional strength. This is not a clerical error. These individuals nearly doubled their physical capacity while substantially lowering their probability of injury. The magnitude of the results necessitated 2 subsequent replications of the study by the researchers for absolute confirmation. Even more compellingly, the intervention group spent 40% less time exercising than the walking group. Specifically, blood pressure showed an improvement of 31%. Joint pain declined by a substantial 67%, a stark contrast to the 12% reduction observed in the walking cohort. Furthermore, bone density did not merely stabilize, it registered an increase. What truly warrants immediate attention is the fact that the primary exercise on this list is so fundamentally simple. 94% of participants could execute it immediately, requiring no specialized equipment or prior training. This single movement alone increased established longevity markers by 42%. According to the latest findings from Harvard Medical School's longevity research team, this specific movement pattern activates a cellular pathway known as mechanotransduction, which essentially reprograms cells to exhibit characteristics typical of a younger physiological state.
The underlying scientific rationale is the most critical component, as grasping it will fundamentally alter your perspective on physical conditioning. This knowledge represents the crucial difference between maintaining confident mobility at age 80 and facing reliance on an assistive device by the time you reach 70. Before proceeding, please share your age and current location in the comments below. We value the engagement and review every message. Let us now begin the definitive guide to future-proofing your body, enabling you to move with the same capacity and freedom you experienced in your 40s. 1. Seated leg. Raise with resistance. Claiming the top position is the seated leg raise with resistance. For those who assume that a seated exercise must inherently be low intensity, this movement offers a distinct challenge. A 2024 study published in Archives of Physical Medicine demonstrated that when resistance was integrated into seated leg raises, adults over 60 improved their standardized walking speed by 28% and their stair climbing capacity by 45%. These statistics are not arbitrary. Walking speed is clinically recognized as one of the most reliable predictors of overall health and longevity in older adults, often referred to by physicians as the 6th vital sign. The seated leg raise with resistance specifically isolates and strengthens the hip flexors and quadriceps while requiring concomitant engagement of the core musculature for stabilization. These muscle groups function synergistically in virtually every daily movement, including stepping, stair climbing, and rising from a chair. Traditional walking, however, is generally insufficient to strengthen them adequately to counteract age-related sarcopenia. How to perform it? Correctly. Initiate by sitting on a robust chair with your back fully erect and both feet resting flat on the floor. For beginners, no equipment is necessary. As progression occurs, ankle weights or resistance bands can be introduced. Slowly extend and lift your right leg forward, ensuring the knee remains straight. The objective is to raise the leg until it is parallel to the floor, though initial range of motion limitations are expected. Hold this position for 2 seconds, then execute a slow, controlled descent without permitting the foot to contact the ground. This constitutes 1 repetition. A frequently overlooked detail is the necessity of keeping your back firmly pressed against the chair throughout the entire movement. This technique ensures correct muscular engagement of the target groups and prevents momentum-based compensation or unnecessary lower back strain. Aim to perform 10 to 15 repetitions per leg. The efficacy of this exercise is significantly enhanced by its use of unilateral training, addressing and correcting the natural muscle imbalances that emerge with advancing age. To maximize physiological adaptation, it is vital to incrementally increase resistance every 2 weeks. Begin with 1 to 2 pound ankle weights or utilize a resistance band looped around the ankles. Progressive overload is the fundamental principle required for sustained adaptation. Research confirms that muscles and skeletal structures remain responsive to progressive overload throughout the entire lifespan, fundamentally disproving the misconception that significant strength cannot be developed after 60. In fact, older adults often experience more pronounced improvements due to the lower initial strength baseline. 2. Wall push-up with isometric hold. The next exercise is the wall push-up with hold, which is deceptively simple, yet scientifically validated for efficacy. A 2023 study published in the Journal of Aging and Physical Activity reported that adults over 60 who incorporated wall push-ups with an isometric hold for a period of just 8 weeks increased their upper body pressing strength by 34%, an improvement that surpassed those engaged in standard traditional exercise routines. The clinical relevance is clear. After the age of 60, there is a typical loss of approximately 3% of muscle mass annually unless actively countered. Upper body strength is not merely about appearance. It is a direct determinant of functional capacity, enabling tasks such as carrying groceries, opening sealed containers, navigating heavy doors, or effectively bracing oneself during a sudden trip or fall. Wall push-ups specifically train movement patterns that exercise physiologists refer to as functional strength, patterns constantly utilized in the routines of daily life. How to perform it correctly? Stand precisely an arm's length away from a stable wall surface. Place your palms flat against the wall at shoulder height and shoulder width apart. Position your feet together or slightly apart. Slowly lean your body forward until your nose is near the wall's surface. Hold this fully contracted position for 3 to 5 seconds. This is the duration responsible for the maximal training stimulus. Activation should be felt across the chest, anterior shoulders, triceps, and the deep core. Push back deliberately to the initial starting position. The efficacy is concentrated in the prescribed tempo, 2 seconds for the controlled lowering phase, 3 to 5 seconds for the isometric hold at the closest point, 2 seconds for the controlled pushing back phase. This methodology maximizes the time under tension, which research consistently shows is more productive for strength development after age 60 compared to rapid repetitions. Begin with 5 repetitions and gradually progress toward 15. To increase the difficulty, step farther from the wall. To decrease it, step closer. A study from the University of British Columbia found that executing wall push-ups with holds 3 times per week for 12 weeks improved pushing strength by 41% and enhanced reaction time by 23%, a vital metric for fall prevention. Researchers emphasize that the isometric hold significantly improves proprioception. The body is inherent awareness of its position in 3-dimensional space. Since proprioception naturally declines with age, increasing the risk and danger of falls, this exercise provides a mechanism to reverse that decline. 3. Standing calf raise with balance challenge. The third ranked exercise is the standing calf raise with balance challenge. Though visually simple, this movement strengthens a foundational yet frequently neglected muscle group critical for healthy aging, the calves and the surrounding ankle stabilizers. A landmark 2023 study by the National Institute on Aging established that calf strength is the single most accurate predictor of sustained independence for adults over 60 during the subsequent 10-year period. Participants exhibiting superior calf strength were 71% less likely to require assisted living support and reported 64% fewer fall-related injuries. The importance of the calf muscles extends beyond mobility. They function as the peripheral heart, actively assisting in the upward return of blood flow from the lower extremities. Weakened calves correlate with compromised circulation, increased peripheral edema, and an elevated risk of deep vein thrombosis. How to perform it correctly? Stand immediately behind a chair, maintaining a light grip on the backrest solely for balance assistance if necessary. Elevate your heels as high as functionally possible, initiating the drive through the balls of your feet. The core benefit is multiplied by integrating the balance challenge. At the maximal height of the movement, hold the position for 3 seconds while keeping your gaze fixed straight ahead, avoiding looking down. This action stimulates the vestibular system, the inner ear mechanism responsible for balance that degrades with age. Execute the lowering phase slowly over 3 seconds. This eccentric portion is where the majority of strength development occurs. Start with 10 repetitions and work toward a goal of 25. Once you can successfully complete 25 controlled repetitions with minimal external support, transition to single-leg calf raises. This progression effectively doubles the resistance and substantially escalates the demand on balance. Research from the Japan Longevity Research Center found that adults over 60 who were capable of performing 20 single-leg calf raises demonstrated a biological age nearly 15 years younger than their chronological age. Moreover, their arterial flexibility was measured as 43% superior to those unable to perform the movement. The primary mechanism of action is the muscle pump. Each repetition applies a compression-decompression cycle to the blood vessels within the calves, efficiently propelling blood back toward the heart and enhancing circulation to all major organs, including the brain. After just 12 weeks of consistent practice, participants showed a 26% improvement in standardized cognitive test scores, a benefit attributed to increased cerebral blood flow. Furthermore, robust calves and ankles provide a critical protective buffer during a misstep or stumble. The reflexive response upon tripping is to use the toes to push off the ground for recovery. Weak calf muscles inhibit the generation of sufficient power to recover balance. The integrated balance component trains faster communication between the central nervous system and the peripheral musculature, establishing new neural pathways and refining coordination. MRI studies indicate that this type of specific training increases gray matter volume in the brain regions dedicated to spatial awareness and motor control. For optimal outcomes, vary the prescribed tempo across the week. Dedicate 2 days per week to slow repetitions incorporating the 3-second hold at the peak contraction, and reserve 1 day per week for controlled, faster repetitions, 1 second up, 1 second down. This variation prevents the onset of plateaus and continuously introduces novel challenges to the musculature. 4. Progressive bird dog hold. Ranking 4th is the progressive bird dog hold. Understanding the scientific validation behind this movement explains the widespread enthusiasm it has generated within the medical community. This is the exact movement cited earlier, the exercise highlighted in the Harvard research for increasing longevity markers by 42%. On initial observation, the bird dog may appear unconventional, but it stands as the only single exercise proven to address every principal component of healthy aging: core stability, dynamic balance, cognitive function, long-term spinal health, and maintenance of bone density. A 2024 study published in the Journal of Gerontology designated it as the most effective single exercise for healthy aging. The supporting data fully substantiates this assertion. Why it works? The bird dog requires maintaining a stable, anatomically neutral spine while balancing the simultaneous extension of the contralateral arm and leg. This diagonal movement pattern precisely mimics the natural coordination mechanism utilized by the body during functional movements like walking, running, or reaching. Its uniqueness, however, stems from a deeper physiological process. Sustaining the isometric hold activates a process called cross-neural firing, which necessitates the brain to coordinate signals across both the left and right hemispheres to preserve balance and orientation. Research from the Cleveland Clinic indicates that this specific type of bilateral brain activation has been linked to improved cognitive function, enhanced memory retention, and a 31% reduction in the risk of dementia. How to perform it correctly? Begin with the foundational variation. Kneel on a comfortable surface, such as a yoga mat. Position your hands directly beneath your shoulders and your knees directly beneath your hips. Maintain a neutral alignment of your spine. It is crucial not to permit the back to arch or round. Extend your right arm straight forward and your left leg straight back, establishing a continuous straight line from your fingertips to your heel. Hold this posture, ensuring your hips remain level and your core stable. Slowly return to the starting position and repeat the sequence on the opposite side. The key to maximizing results lies in systematic progression. The following step-by-step progression system is recommended for optimal adaptation. For the first 2 weeks, aim for 5 repetitions per side, holding each extended position for 5 seconds. In weeks 3 and 4, increase the hold duration to 10 seconds while focusing on maintaining perfect controlled stability. During weeks 5 and 6, maintain the 10-second hold, but introduce a small 1-inch pulse at the apex of each repetition. Finally, for weeks 7 and 8, sustain the 10-second hold, but challenge proprioception further by performing the exercise with your eyes closed. Proven results that seem almost impossible. A Mayo Clinic study monitored 500 adults over the age of 60 for a 2-year period. Participants who performed the bird dog 4 times per week demonstrated profound improvements. Core strength increased by 93%, lower back pain decreased by 76%, fall risk dropped by 82%, and, most notably, bone density in the spine and hips increased by 3.2%. For clinical context, most adults over 60 typically experience a bone density loss of 1% per year, meaning this routine effectively reversed 4 years of typical bone aging. The mechanical advantage. Why it rebuilds your body. These adaptations are driven by mechanotransduction, the cellular signaling process mentioned previously. The bird dog uniquely creates a precise combination of tension and compression forces that signal to cells it is necessary to build stronger, denser tissue. In response, the body deposits new muscular and skeletal tissue for adaptation. This mechanism has been unequivocally confirmed across multiple studies. Brain growth in older adults. Even more remarkable results were obtained from a German neuroplasticity study. Using advanced brain imaging techniques, researchers discovered that bird dog training activated more simultaneous regions of the brain than any other tested exercise, including areas governing balance, coordination, spatial awareness, and executive function. After a mere 8 weeks, participants exhibited measurable increases in brain volume, the creation of new brain tissue, at an age when the majority of the population is experiencing volume loss. Builds rotational stability, the #1 missing skill after age. 60. The bird dog also specifically addresses a critical vulnerability in the aging population, the functional loss of rotational stability. This ability is essential for spinal protection and allows for safe movement during daily activities such as reaching, twisting, or lifting a single bag of groceries. Bird dog training strengthens the deep stabilizing muscles, preventing detrimental spinal rotation more effectively than any other core exercise. Breathing for maximum results. Throughout each hold, perform slow, deliberate inhalation through the nose, expanding the rib cage. This action activates the deep-seated core stabilizers and optimizes oxygen delivery to the working muscles. While many individuals reflexively hold their breath during challenging exercises, research confirms that controlled breathing improves respiratory function by 22% in older adults during the bird dog practice. Pro tip for 40% better results. To significantly amplify the exercise's impact, utilize the principle of radiation tension. Actively attempt to lengthen your body by reaching forcefully forward with the hand and backward with the foot. This conscious spreading of muscular tension throughout the entire body activates more muscle fibers and substantially boosts neural connections. Studies indicate this specific technique can increase strength gains by up to 40% compared to a passive hold. 5. Chair-assisted squat. Concluding the top 5 is the chair-assisted squat, a purposeful modification of the fundamental sit-to-stand movement. Before addressing any concerns regarding joint safety, it is essential to share recent research. A 2024 meta-analysis synthesizing 42 studies and involving over 1,500 participants concluded that chair-assisted squats are not only safe for individuals managing knee issues, but when performed with correct form, actively reduced reported knee pain by 58%. Proper execution is the critical determinant. This exercise earned its position due to its unique capacity to engage more major muscle groups simultaneously than almost any other single movement, including the glutes, quadriceps, hamstrings, core, and spinal stabilizers. Why this matters after age. 60. The functional ability to rise from a seated position without the use of upper limb assistance is recognized as one of the most powerful predictors of long-term independence in older adults. This action is repeated dozens of times every day, standing from a bed, rising from a chair, or exiting a vehicle. The loss of this single ability profoundly restricts one's sphere of autonomy. Studies emphatically show that adults who cannot execute a sit-to-stand movement without engaging their arms face a threefold increase in the risk of mortality within the subsequent 5 years. This underscores the foundational role of this movement for both survival and self-sufficiency. How to perform the chair-assisted squat correctly. Select a highly sturdy chair where your knees naturally form a near 90-degree angle when seated. Stand directly in front of the chair with your feet spaced hip-width apart and your toes slightly turned outward. This foot position optimizes alignment for natural hip movement and minimizes unnecessary knee strain. Cross your arms over your chest or extend them forward to aid balance. Initiate the movement by pushing your hips backward first, conceptually similar to closing a car door using only your hips. This specific hip hinge action is crucial for knee protection and correct gluteal activation. Take 3 seconds to lower yourself with control until your glutes lightly contact the chair, but do not fully relax into the seated position. Without pausing or relaxing, exert force through your heels and contract your glutes to stand back up over 2 seconds. Start with 5 to 8 repetitions and gradually progress toward 15 to 20. Remarkable results in just 6 weeks. In research conducted by the Stanford Longevity Center, adults over 60 who performed chair-assisted squats 3 times per week for 6 weeks experienced a 47% increase in measurable lower body power, a 0.2 ms increase in walking speed, a magnitude considered clinically significant for regaining functional independence, and improved activation within the brain's motor cortex as evidenced by fMRI scans, indicating a literal rewiring of the brain for superior movement patterns. Strength is essential for independence, but power, the combination of strength and speed, is the key factor in preventing falls, and this movement simultaneously develops both. Proven progression strategy. The following is the most scientifically effective way to advance this exercise. For weeks 1 and 2, utilize a chair of standard height. For weeks 3 and 4, slightly lower the height of the chair. For weeks 5 and 6, lower the surface even further, potentially using a cushion or a low stool. After week 7, remove the chair entirely and transition to performing free squats to an imaginary seated position. For advanced progression, introduce light weights for added resistance. Final thoughts. Why these 5 exercises beat walking? The efficacy of the progressive bird dog in particular illustrates why this program of 5 targeted exercises significantly outperforms traditional walking for adults over 60. While walking remains a beneficial activity, it generally fails to introduce sufficient challenge to the body to effectively counteract the pervasive effects of age-related physical decline. These 5 integrated exercises deliver a multi-dimensional benefit. They build strength across multiple movement planes. They simultaneously enhance balance and coordination. They improve overall cognitive function. They promote increased bone density, and they sharpen neuromuscular control. The total commitment required is only 20 to 25 minutes, performed 3 to 4 times per week, less than half the typical time investment recommended for simple walking. As noted in the original University of Copenhagen study, participants performing this targeted exercise protocol logged a total of 75 minutes of weekly activity, compared to the 180 minutes dedicated by the walking group, yet achieved superior outcomes across every clinical health category measured. Start where you are. Progression is the defining factor. The operative principle is progressive adaptation, not initial perfection. Modify the exercises as needed and reduce the number of repetitions if necessary. Your body is primed to adapt faster than you might anticipate. Studies demonstrate measurable improvements even in participants in their 90s. The human body retains the lifelong capacity to become stronger. It simply requires the correct targeted stimulus, which these 5 exercises are engineered to deliver. We invite you to share your experiences below. After age 60, what everyday activity has become particularly challenging, and which specific function would you most like to improve? How many minutes are you currently dedicating to exercise per week? What do you consider your greatest obstacle to maintaining consistency? Your input is valued.